above it all, untouchable, a new animal. This is how legends are made. This is how legends are made. This is how legends are made.
What's up, guys? We're back. We're live again. So this is 2 days in a row. We're gonna go live the whole way through this quarantine. As long as we got a quarantine together,
We might as well, right?
we'll be here together with you guys. So I'm Jeremy LaRose.
I'm Macy Black.
We run Patreon site called LSH Live, Instagram account LSH Live, YouTube account LSH Live. Check it out. If you haven't already, we do lots of videos. We do lots of videos on training horses, being a better rider, whether you're being a show person or whatever, just being better, right? Just communicating better.
We have a giveaway going on
Yes.
on Instagram right now.
Yes.
Right? On Instagram? I guess on Facebook too.
Instagram and Facebook. So remember, if you share the video of Peanut loping around and tag a friend and make sure you subscribed on YouTube. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. We're begging you. We need your help, right? We've helped you guys with the riding. We need your help to make sure that you are subscribed on YouTube because we need 1,000 subscribers. That's our goal. We'd really love to have 1,000 subscribers on YouTube.
That'd be awesome. I think we're like 100 away.
Yeah, we're like 100 away.
So we're super, super close.
Super close. We're right there. So need your help to do that. Please tell your friends. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And I think on Facebook too, you can hit a little bell notification to get notified when we go live. So if you guys like this videos, you want more of this stuff, make sure you click the little live button and we can go live. So today,
This is Dubs.
this is Debs. So Debs is gonna work on a little bit of horsemanship stuff with us today. We talked yesterday about getting connected with our horse, right? Getting that horse where he moves with your spur. And I think the most important piece of that is that you're a good rider yourself, right? Because if your spur's bouncing all over his body, he's not gonna learn those commands, right? So it's all about you being consistent, you being steady with your leg, consistent with your spur. You've gotta make sure that you're going to your leg in a way that's gonna help him, right? Because if you spur your horse at any time other than when you're coming in and coming up in the saddle, if you spur him on the down part of your stride, you're gonna make him mad.
Right.
He's just gonna get mad, right? So this is a lot like what I wanna feel like when I ride a horse. When I'm riding, I wanna feel like I'm going along and it's like driving a car. If you guys have hauled horses before, right? Have the tow haul button on your truck. If you got the tow haul button pushed in, your truck is always kind of constantly braking back to you. That's what a good show horse feels like to us, right? So we've all been there where you feel like you're driving a car that's just running away, right? If you guys have ever had the cruise set, I don't know how it is for you, but for me, if you guys have the cruise set, say like 75 at night when you're really tired and you're going around a big old curve on the highway,
And you're flying.
and you're flying, right? It just feels like you're completely out of control. So we say that feels like you're riding a car on rails, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to show my horse on rails. That's terrifying to me, right? So I want to make sure that my horse has always kind of got that tow haul button on, right? That he's chilling back to us. Anxious horses? Yes. So we're going to do some of that stuff too. So we'll do a little Q&A stuff. Macy will flip through. If you guys have questions, she'll be behind the wheel again today. So make sure you get questions into her. Yeah, so riding that tow haul button, right? So we want to feel like that horse is kind of always braking back to us. I don't want to feel like he's kind of rushing off this way. And you've got to be honest with yourself at home. You're going to feel that at home before you ever need to go to the horse show. So if there's people out there that are like, I don't know if my horse is doing it right. Set your hand down, go to your feet. A good horse, a good horse should come up to you and back, right? That tow haul. You want to be able to push your horse on all the time.
Right.
I don't want to feel like I'm holding my horse back. If I'm holding him back, we're in trouble. Michelle, hey, we would love to come back. We can't wait. I hope you're being safe up there.
How's your horse doing?
But yeah, so then getting that tow haul, right? So in order to do that, you've got to have that texture and that feeling of that horse's side. And we talked a little bit about that yesterday, where, say on Charlie, on the paint horse that I rode second, I can't go to my foot without him going sideways, right? And this one's a lot the same way, that I can't go to my foot without him just going sideways in the arena,
Right.
okay? So sideways is almost just as bad as forward, right? Hey, Brittany. So getting your horse, I got eagle vision.
You do? I don't. I need contacts. Or glass.
So having that horse where he rides with you, right? Really important. I don't want him to go sideways. But he's got to sit up on our spur so that we can go to our leg with some amount of pressure that he doesn't just run away from.
Right.
Okay? And this horse is especially guilty of that, right? He came from a barn where when you put your spur on, it meant move, and it meant move right now, right?
And he gets nervous too.
Yep. He's more of a nervous horse. He's more of a touchy horse, and we can't have that, right? We got to have a horse that we can go to our foot and we can get some amount of just sit on our spur before we get some up or some over or whatever it is,
right.
Okay? Because I hate having that feeling where it's like the gas is so touchy that you can't touch it at all before that horse is just going places,
right.
Okay?
That's how he is.
Yeah, that's how he is, right? So getting that horse to where it'll ride with your leg is really important,
right.
Okay? So some of it is going to be on our horse, some of it.
And trust.
Small part of it, right? That we make sure that we're going to our sides effectively and our horse is moving with us. So I want to get on and show you guys a little bit of that. But the other part of that is about making yourself better. So if we want to make our horses a good horse, right? If we want to improve where he is, for all of you guys that are doing it at home, you got to be better yourselves, right? Hey, Bonnie. So make sure that you're getting better yourselves, right? You've got to make sure that you're working on improving your riding because the only tools that you have to ride with are your hands and your feet, right? These are your methods of communication, your hands and your feet. So if you can't communicate effectively through your hands and your leg, you're going to have a hard time, right? So I want to go over some of the common problems that I see, things that I want you to work on, things that I want you to identify in your own riding at home, and see if we can't make them a little bit better, okay? So big problems that I see. Let's kick this down. We'll stay back. I won't be able to read chat. I'll move down. I got it. I'll be able to see our legs. All right. Yeah, Jesus, take the wheel, Bonnie said. Exactly. All right, so big problems that I see. Most common problems. People riding like this, pinching with your knees.
It actually really hurts. I tried it a couple days ago, and I don't know, I couldn't do it.
No, it's extremely ineffective, right? If you look at what this does to my body, right? Imagine I have my horse's barrel underneath of me. Right. His body is round, it's a barrel. How am I doing this, right? So you've got your hips closed, you got your knees rolled into the saddle, which kicks your heels out and away, all right? So if you guys can see that in my heel, how my heel is kicked out and away. Well, my method of communication is through my calves and my spurs, right? So I can't have my heels kicked out and away and be pinching here with my thighs and ride a horse effectively. What you've got to do is open up your hips, open up your knees, okay? So see how I just rolled my knees open. Now, do you see how I'm sitting? The horse's barrel could fit right there, right? That's what I'm looking for. This is a nice balanced position. We want that horse's barrel to fit between our legs. Okay? A lot of people get confused and they think that sitting on your horse should hold you on front to back. No. It doesn't. Sitting on your horse, using your stirrups holds you on left to right. Stirrups give you left to right balance, okay? So don't use your legs like this because you don't have very good left to right balance sitting up here like this, right? See how my body doesn't work effectively. I bend in the middle, right? Now this hip is higher than this hip, this shoulder is higher than this shoulder. If I was sitting on a horse, my heels are gonna be all messed up. Right? And all of my lines of my body are ineffective, okay? So when you sit like this, you can move over. See how everything's still balanced and square? I can shift my weight both directions and everything can stay straight and balanced. So when you see me push hips around or do different things, pay attention to those lines of your hips and your shoulders, okay? Because we don't want to get off balance, right? So I can move with my horse right here and have everything stay moving effectively, okay? So it's about putting weight in your stirrups. Right? Now I'm gonna put more weight over here, push against this one, put more weight over here, push against this one. Those stirrups hold me on front to back, all right? Not trying to hold myself on front right here, okay? The way the saddle's made is gonna hold me on front to back. The stirrups are gonna hold me on left to right, okay? So get to where you can ride with your legs open, rolling your knees open, okay? Open up your thigh. What I really would like to see is I'd like to see a rider whose angle of their thigh matches the angle of their foot over their knee, okay? So having your knees over your toes, really important, all right? So then once you're there, it's about carrying weight in the balls of your feet.
People are saying it's hard when they jump, the trainers told them to squeeze with their knees.
Yeah.
It's a really hard habit to break. It is a really hard habit to
break. It is. But remember, when you're jumping, you're not going left to right. You're going up and down, right? You're going up and down. So you're gonna need to hold on right here when you go up, right? When you surge up. So yeah, I understand that, but for what we're doing, this Western pleasure stuff, in order to be effective, and you gotta ride through your feet, right? When we're jumping, you're not necessarily asking for a lot of position out of your legs as far as you are like for a horsemanship class or a Western horse in today's show world, right? So a little bit different idea there, right? But no, I totally understand jumping, rolling your knees in, okay? Yeah, so make sure that you've got your legs opened up, got your knees open over your toes, okay? What that's gonna do is it's gonna put the weight on the balls of your feet, all right? So getting your weight on your balls of your feet so you can make moves like this up there and get your stirrups effective. There's nothing I hate more than seeing a rider who doesn't use their stirrups effectively, that floats their stirrups, okay? I don't wanna be able to pull this stirrup away from you. Really important that you got weight down through your stirrups effectively. That's gonna make you ride down through your whole leg, and then you're gonna be able to feel the up and down of your horse's movement, which is really what we're going for, right? We gotta have up and down in the movement. So if you watch some of those high-end trainers, you see their butts come out of the saddle when they lope, because their lopes go this way. They come up and down. If you're riding your horse and you're just scooting along right here, you're real flat to the ground, right? You're not feeling any up and down in your movement. You can't go any slower than you're going, right? The only speed control you're gonna have from there is just shutting your horse down, okay? So you watch those really good guys lope their horses, they're back here like this, they lope up, lope up, lope up, right? That horse picks us up and carries us to the next stride, all right? And that's a big deal. So make sure that horse picks you up, carries you to the next stride, and sets you down. If your horse is out there grabbing ground, right, and you have no lift, you're just running forward. Okay, so you won't be able to ride very effectively, okay? Got a question or what?
Yeah, it says, with mare, who is spur trainer? I feel like I am reaching through my stirrup to reach my mare sides.
Oh, so with a mare who's spur trained, I feel like I'm reaching through my stirrup to reach my sides. Yeah, so pick your stirrup up, right? So a lot of times I see people ride with stirrups that are way too long.
Like they're just reaching for them?
Yeah, it sounds like she says that she's, and you can clarify too, I feel like I'm reaching through my stirrup to reach my mare's sides.
Like, is your foot coming out and you're like trying to get to your stirrup? Is that what she said?
Might be. Either way, we'll address it when we get on there. So, yeah, so making sure your stirrup length is effective, right? The proper stirrup length is one that allows you to have the same amount of bend in your ankle as you have in your leg, right? So if I have this amount of bend in my hip, see this angle right here, should match the angle of my knee, should match the angle, I'll back up a little bit, should match the angle of my foot in the stirrup. Okay? That's the balanced position that we're looking for. If you're riding straight-legged like this, you're probably reaching for your stirrups, and you're gonna ride down through your toes like this.
Okay, and then your heels come up.
Your heels come up, right? So your stirrups are too long, so you're constantly reaching for them, and you can't get your spurs underneath. Okay? Because remember, you've got to take your foot and pry it against that stirrup and leverage that stirrup, right? So that acts as a little fulcrum right there. If you've got your toes in your stirrup, you can bend and then fulcrum off of your spur or your stirrup to get your spurs up, okay? And we'll talk about that. We're gonna take you guys for a little ride. Macy will hook this up to the gimbal so we can bring you a little closer so you can see, okay? So, yeah, going and using that stirrup effectively. We wanna be able to do this in our stirrups, all right? And we did a little video on that on our Patreon page about getting up in our stirrups and getting that control through your leg, right?
That was a long time ago, didn't we?
That was a while ago. Yeah, I was in Canada.
Was that Canada or was that LSH?
Why does horse have a shank bit? So this is we're going to do a little bit of horsemanship stuff. So I want to do some stuff that demonstrate how not to use a shank bit and what we're not going for in his face, because this is one that we've had in training for about 3-4 months now. So he's learning how to be a horsemanship horse. I'm going to show you guys some problems that we run into. The mouthpiece for this, buddy. This is our little 7 shank. So I like this. Yep, got a little 7. So I really like this bit. It's a good, solid bit. Doesn't have a lot of wiggle, right? The only place that it's jointed is right here. So it's the only place that swivels. Remember, the more places your bit moves, the looser your horse is going to ride between those reins, right? So if your bit moved all over the place, if this moved and this was jointed here and everything was jointed, your horse can get a lot of play in his face. So because this is only jointed, shouldn't have a lot. Carolyn and Lola. Carolyn, we miss you guys. We saw yesterday that you liked the video of Peanut, and I was like, I miss Carolyn so much.
I know, that's so cute. Aw, how is Lola doing?
So yeah, so this is a little 7 shank. It's a good horsemanship bit. And I'm going to show you guys what we need to have. So a lot of people ask me, when do I make the transition from a snaffle to a show bit, right, to a shank bit? So we'll talk a little bit about that, because it's going to be about horsemanship, right? So yeah, so without getting too sidetracked, right? So making sure your leg is effective in the saddle, okay? So using that leg effectively, want to be able to be sitting, want to be able to be square like this, coming around, getting balanced in the saddle. Can't have you here. Can't have you here. No. Let me see too. So I'm going to get up here. If you guys want to hang on, Macy's going to take you for a little ride while she switches equipment. We'll try not to make it too sick.
Hang on.
Yep. All right, so while she gets situated, I'm gonna move in front of the camera here. And you can see our little lines here, right? So I think if I'm right here, you can see both stirrups, okay? So what we wanna do is we wanna ride even between our stirrups. Even pressure, want even lines. So the line of my hips, line through my stirrups. If you guys can see through my legs right there, even pressure. See my hips are open right here. That kind of pops my knee off my horse, okay? If your knees pop too far off, your stirrups are too short. So if you're like this, your stirrups are far too short, okay? And that's gonna go both ways. That's gonna have two things that you wanna keep in mind. One of those things is having your stirrup length to match your horse's side, right? So not only is it supposed to match your leg, but it's gonna match your horse's side too, okay? If I have a horse who's not very deep-hearted, not very deep heart girth, then I'm gonna have a problem coming through here, getting my horse balanced, right, between my legs, because if he's really deep-hearted and I'm really short-legged, you're gonna be spurring him up here, right? If I'm got my stirrups and I got long, long legs, I gotta reach for him, I might have to ride like this through my stirrups, right? We don't wanna have to do that, so I vary my stirrup length all the time, right? Whether it's on different horses or just how I feel for the day, where if I want my spurs hit in a different place, I change my spurs all the time, trying to get to where I can find that most effective length, right? Want to have that most effective length. So it's just the one where I feel balanced and connected to my horse, where I can get both legs wrapped around him. When I go to my horse's side, I want to make sure that my spur hits right here, I can keep my leg wrapped around close, okay? And I wanna make sure that I can squeeze my feet. So right here, this is the amount of pressure I wanna be able to put on. We got some technical difficulties. Oh no. I wanna be able to put my spurs on. I think you have that end too low, tuck it in a little bit. So be able to put that spur in right here and be connected to him. So when I action off my stirrup, that brings my spur up into him, brings my rowel up into him, okay? So having this work is really important, okay? That's why you can't float your stirrup. If I'm riding like this and I have air between my stirrup and my foot, I have nothing to fulcrum off of, and I'm just kind of floating here. I'm not very balanced, all right? We wanna make sure that you are balanced on here, okay? Balanced up here. So you gotta be between your stirrups, be able to shuffle your feet back and forth. And that's a maneuver we have our riders do all the time, where we kind of run in the saddle. We'll do a little run in the stirrups right here. Want to be able to push off your stirrups, okay? Pushing off those stirrups all the time. Make sure that you can stay balanced. This is what your stirrups are meant to do for you, okay? So from there, we've got our thigh opened up. So I'll come up towards the camera so you can see. Our thigh opened up. The angle of my toe is over my knee, if you guys can see that. So here's my hip, square, my knee, square, my toe, square from there. Everything's squared up. Make sure you're not riding like this. Do you see what that does to my lower leg? See how far away from my horse's side that puts me? So I'm right here. When I roll my hips in, look how far away my stirrup is, right? My spur is. You can angle that down a little bit, Macy. So right there, that really kicks my leg away from my horse. I don't want that to happen, right? I want to be able to ride right here. And simply changing the angle of my toe and my thigh puts that spur so much closer and more connected to our horse. You have to keep in mind, if you aren't connected to your horse's side, when you go to his belly, yep, angle back up. If you're not connected to his side when you go to his belly, you're gonna have a lag time in your communication, right? So there's gonna be a disconnect between when you think you should talk to him and when you're actually gonna be talking to him. And that disconnect is A, gonna lead to bad timing, B, gonna force your horse to make a bigger move, all right? Because if I'm riding along here, do you wanna flip it around, Mace? Yeah. Yeah, that'd be good. I won't be able to see myself, but that's okay. All right. So it's gonna force my horse to have to make a bigger move, right? So when I go to my horse, if I'm riding him right here, and I'm balanced and square between my legs, if I'm like this and I'm balanced, I'm braced against my stirrups and my legs are this far away from him, look at all this room that he has to move his hip, right? He's got tons of room. What are you looking at, Mace? Push it this way. Push the phone this way. Yep, slide the phone out. There you go. All right, so now, if you're riding like this, you're riding really far away with your leg. I'll turn around so you can see. Macy, you can tell me if I'm square. Okay, if I'm riding like this with my knees rolled in, look where my spurs hit, all right? So remember, we talked about how this is the lane that our horse has to operate in, right? This is the lane that our horse gets to work in, between our hands and our feet. So if I roll my knees in, look how much play he has between my legs. So I've got to open my thighs up, roll my knees out, and now do you see how my legs can ride really close to his sides? Now the margin for error is much smaller, right? So not only am I softer when I go to his sides, not only is it a softer move, but it's more connected, right? And it's easier for him to know what's happening. Further back. Jeez, I feel so far away. All right, so getting that leg effective on your horse's side is huge, because if you're riding like this, he's got so much room to move, all right? And I want to ask you guys a question. You can kind of think about it. Is it easier or harder for our horse to make a little move or a big one? Right? Think about that. When you're riding, it is so much simpler to me to fix a small problem than a big one. All right? So if I was loping on my right lead and my hip gets a little bit straight, if my leg was really connected here, I could push my hip over and I could get him to come right here and back into position. All right? But if my legs were out here, I wouldn't even feel it being a problem until his hip was way over here. Right? If his hip's way over here, it takes a much more broke horse to push your hip back in that far, right? To push his hip over that far than it does if I'm connected and I can fix a little problem, all right? So making sure that you can ride close with your legs will fix little problems before they become big ones, okay? And that's the biggest thing for me, is I want you guys to be able to fix little problems before they turn into big problems, by being effective and being connected through your feet, all right? The other piece that's going to give you is going to give you better timing and feel for your horse's sides, because remember, you are not trying to fix the stride that you're on, okay? And I'm going to repeat that so you guys really understand that. We are not trying to fix the stride that we felt was wrong. If you do that, you're always reacting to him. I'm always reacting to what he's doing, okay? So I'm always riding behind what's actually happening. I'm always late to the party, okay? And in his world, whoever moves their feet is in charge, okay? So you watch horses out in the pasture, the one that makes their feet move is the one that's in charge, okay? So just like we said yesterday, I'm not gonna let my horse train me. I'm training my horse. So I wanna make sure that I'm controlling what's gonna happen in that stride up there. That the position that I feel, is this a good stride for where I'm going, not the stride I'm on. Because if I'm focused on the stride that I'm on, I'm late. I'm way behind the 8 ball, okay? So whenever you see me come in and make a correction to my horse, I'm making a correction for what's gonna happen up there. I'm preparing and changing my horse's position and changing my position as a rider for what's gonna happen up there, all right? So it's being a better rider is having a plan in mind, okay? And we've said it before on this channel where if you're riding your horse, we don't know if this is a good position or not until we know where we're going, right? If I was over here with my hip like this, is this a good position? Well, we need context, right? We need context. If this is a left lead, this is a great position, right? If I was left leading through here, this is an awesome position. I got my hip on the inside, I got my head and neck in the middle, I got everything lined up and square. This is fantastic position. But if I was in this exact same position going to the right on a right lead, it's terrible, right? So you have to keep in mind where you're going. Always ride and fix and train for what's gonna happen up there. If you ride and fix and train for what's happening right now, you're late, right? And your horse isn't gonna understand it because you won't know when to get out, all right? If I ride and I fix and I train and I say, okay, I got a corner coming up here, I'm on my right lead, you're gonna have to really get round and shape up, and I'm in this position, now I'm in good shape to make a corner, all right? I got his hip on the inside, I got everything coming around here, he'll be balanced coming around the corner, If I don't know where I'm going because I'm staring right here, and then I'm like, oh, shoot, corner, and I panic, he's gonna get off balance, all right? So when you start riding for the next stride, instead of the stride you're on, your fixes, your corrections will make a ton more sense, all right? Especially for a horsemanship class. You've gotta be focused on what's coming up ahead. Don't get lost in what's happening right here. So big problem that I see, people getting lost, they got their legs in the wrong spot so they can't get in, they got too much room, they're giving their horse too much space to make errors, right? If I give him space, that's where I've got to trust him even more that he does the right thing. And personally, I've had very few horses that I really trusted to do the right thing, especially if they're not really well trained, all right? So the better trained your horse is, the better he might do the right thing, okay? But for these horses that we're retraining or we're fixing holes on, we don't have that luxury, so we have to stay really close to him, all right? When you're teaching your horse something new, you gotta stay really close to him, okay? The other piece that rolling your thighs open is gonna do for you is it's gonna put your weight in the right spot with your stirrup, okay? So I'm gonna come a little closer here so Macy can see my foot. Can you see my foot? Okay, and this is a weird one to me and not one that I thought I would see much, but the more places I go, the more I see, right? When we ride in our stirrups, do you see how my big toe is angled down? My big toe is lower than my pinky toe. Can you guys see that? So what I find is I find people that are really weak ankled and they ride like this, okay? So this is super awkward to me, so if I could contort my leg to where I'm riding with my knees rolled in and I'm riding on the outside of my foot. Maybe you guys have seen this in your own riding or you've seen this in your barns or whatever, or horse shows. This is completely ineffective to me. This A does not hold me on left to right very well, and it's super painful in my ankles. I don't know how people do it. But getting your horse to where like you're sitting with your toe, all the weight's going down through my big toe. That's where I want to be balanced up. That gives my spurs not much room to travel, okay? So the big thing about that, my spur doesn't have a whole lot of room to travel, and we're gonna lose a bunch of hair, shedding our horse out. So my spur doesn't have much room to travel before it comes into his side, right? Ideally, I'm riding with my spurs, my calves, just a millimeter away from him, right? So I don't have him on my spurs right here. I don't have him on my shanks, but I'm real close, all right? So if I make a move, I'll be real deliberate about it. So right here to here, he's on my shank now, all right? And I don't know if you guys could see that, but that's not much room at all, okay? So here to here, he's on my shank. And then if I needed more, if I wanted to make him lift his belly or give me more movement, I'm gonna roll my rowel up into him, okay? So see, I can drop my spur out by just dropping my heel down. So right here, heel's level, he's on my calves, bring my shank into him. This is where I want my horse to ride, right there on my shank. And then I roll my rowel up into him. And all that is, if I didn't have a stirrup, you could see, I'm right here, he's on my shank, and then I roll my rowel. So it's just tipping my toe, just pressing the gas a little bit, right? So if you're driving a car, you're right here. You're just gonna press the gas pedal down a little bit. Have that ankle control where you can press that gas pedal down, okay? And anytime I leverage my spurs like that, leverage my stirrups, that should be lift and round. So you can see my horse pick up a little bit right before he backed up, right? So that's what I'm looking for. So I want, when I pry those spurs, I want my horse to come up to me in his belly, and he backs up, and I don't love that. A question?
What is the ideal foot position for horsemanship?
This is it right here, right? This isn't like Western pleasure or anything, but this is just good riding, okay? So when I look at a rider, and you can tell me where I'm at, Macy. Okay, what I want is I want a rider that's effective more than anything. More than anything in the whole world, where your arm is or where your chin is or anything like that. I just want a rider that's effective, okay? Be an effective rider first before you worry about like where your hand is or anything like that, right? What show clothes you have on or how much silver's on your saddle, right? Whether your shirt matches your pad. Before you worry about any of that stuff, be effective as a rider and ride with your horse, because that'll get you far more points to the most amount of judges, okay? Do you have a question, Mace?
She said, I've been told so often by trainers that my toes are too much on the outside.
So like this? Or like this?
Like your toes are too like, or turned out?
Some people like, it was a thing when I was starting out, and she might understand. It was a thing when I was starting out that people would ride, and it was like, show me your boots like this. Like, I want to be able to read the brand of your boot, which was super awkward, right? So just balanced, right?
She said outwards like a duck. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yep. Yeah, like, Yeah. So we don't want this. So the proper position is the angle of my thigh matches the angle of my toes, right? Everything's just open the same amount. If I contort my leg like this, I don't know, can you see my thigh from there, Mace? Yeah. Okay, so if I contort my thigh out further, my lower leg out further, it really locks my calves against my horse, which is kind of nice, but now my angle doesn't match, all right? So now if you look at the angle of my shin, it's facing you guys, but my thigh is facing over there. Do you guys see that? So I want this to relax this so it matches, all right? Then I can bend my ankle and use my foot, okay? When I see people riding like this, it's just stiff and bracy and locked up and perchy, right? And everything is tight and tense, okay? When you're tight and tense, you can't absorb shock, so you can't move with your horse. So instead of being loose and moving with him up here and coming around and flowing in the saddle, flowing through your pattern, you're gonna be like slamming on him, jarry, and I hate seeing that, right? I desperately hate seeing that, right? And that got really common with like our younger amateurs, especially. I would say like, if you were 19 to 25, or maybe even younger than that, maybe 16 to 25, that's ultra perchy, like here, forced, awkward, super locked in position where you're like long trotting. I hate it, hate it. It's not effective, right? It's not effective. So it just, to me, looks like there's a disconnect between your horse and your rider. And I don't want to see that. I want to see you guys move together, okay? So I want the rider to be connected to the horse all the time. Having a rider and a horse that are connected and moving together, where like you go to turn and you're right here and you look through and you pivot around, that's what I want. I don't want to like rush this and override my horse and like spin over here. That's not connected, okay? Move with your horse. If your horse is not capable of going fast through a pattern, don't. Just don't, right? If I'm way ahead of my horse and he's still over here, I'm not riding with my horse. It's not dancing, right? You guys are a partner, and you left your dance partner way off in the dirt, okay? And that's not a pretty picture to me. So just slow everything down, okay? So being effective is the first part of being a good rider. It's the first part of training your horse, right? So you can't be like, well, I don't do horsemanship, so I don't really have to worry about this, right? Every time you get on your horse, you're training him, whether you want to or not, right? So every time you're either teaching what to do or what not to do. One of the two things, right? You're always. So make sure you're riding effective through your leg, through your heel, right? And through your spur, because that's your method of communication, okay? So I think that's the major things, right? The ankles bending out like this, this super awkward, rolling your knees in, huge to me. And then I guess the other one is leg position, right? So getting your legs back underneath of you. If you look when I'm sitting on this horse, my heel just kind of sits underneath my thigh, right? Heel just kind of sits underneath my thigh right here. I'm not too far forward with my legs. This is braced against my stirrup, right? What I'm not doing is controlling the bend right here. So I'm just letting my stirrup go, okay? Floating your stirrup like this. If you have your leg in the right spot, you're gonna be able to use your stirrups effectively. Do you see how my heel stays underneath my horse? If you're not riding with your leg down through your horse, then you're gonna bring your heels up like this, okay? If you don't have a good angle of your lower leg right here, then your spur is gonna hit much further back than what you're intending. Do you guys see that right there? I'm applying my leg in the middle of his body, right underneath my heel, but look where my rowel ends up hitting it. You see how far back that is? So then what I see is I see people like, oh, I've got a lope, I gotta slide my outside leg back, and they end up doing this. And look how far back that spur is, right? That is in his flank. It's gonna get hooked underneath my saddle pad, and I'm gonna be in really bad shape, okay? Go ahead.
What about your weight? Should your weight be to the outside?
To the outside. When you're loping? Yeah. Yep. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that. When you're loping a horse, let me back up. When you're loping, yeah, hold on. His weight should be over here. If I was on my right lead loping around, I want it to be like 70-30, okay? 70% of his weight should be on the outside legs, 30% should be on the inside, all right? I don't want it to necessarily be 50-50, because I like a horse that leans on the outside, and that might be personal preference to me. I certainly know it's personal preference for Macy. If she could have him be like 90-10, she's good with that. She wants a leg that she can just grind on when she's riding. So I like them personally a little bit 70-30, and everybody's got a different feel, right? And that's okay. We change these horses all the time, getting him a little bit heavier over here, a little lighter over here, and he changes all the time, right? He's gonna ride along and be a little bit heavy this way, a little heavy over here some days. The key to it for me is that you ride balanced and square, all right? And that's gonna bring me to my next point, where, do you see how my lines are straight? My shoulders are straight, my hips are straight, my heels are straight, okay? The only other thing that I know for certain that's gonna be straight is the ground, okay? So think about that for a second. The ground is always straight. So if my heels are straight to the ground, and my hips are straight to my heels, and my shoulders are straight to my hips, then everything goes down just in little tiers like that, right? So what I feel then is, if I'm straight and the ground is straight, the variable is gonna be my horse, right? So if you can imagine, if I was sitting square up here and straight, and my horse was off balance underneath of me, I'm gonna feel that in my saddle, right? I'm gonna feel more pressure up here, and I'm gonna feel like I'm falling down over here if I don't have my horse's weight square and centered, if he's rolling his rib cage on me, right? If I don't sit square, and I sit like this with him, do you see how we don't feel that there's a problem? Right? Because I'm sitting square, so to me and him, it feels like this, right? So if I'm riding my horse and he's dropping his inside shoulder, then my saddle's gonna sit like this, and I'm just gonna be sitting up there square to my saddle, and I'm just happy as can be because I don't feel that there's a problem, right? But if I pull my saddle over and then I sit square, do you see how this is a problem now, right? I got everything tipping off this way, and I feel like there's more horse and more saddle over here, and I'm falling off a cliff over here, okay? We don't want that. I want to feel square, okay? So if I'm sitting square, I can identify problems like these. So I'm sitting square, I can find problems underneath of me. If I'm not sitting square, I can't feel that there's a problem that I have to adjust here, right? So getting to where you sit square to the ground, that's why I don't over tighten my saddles on my riders, okay? So anybody that's been through my program knows probably one of the first things I'm gonna do is loosen your saddle up. All right? Because if your horse wants to roll your saddle off, or you want to roll your horse because you're not sitting square, I want to know. I want that problem to show up. All right? Because if you're like, man, I got to keep switching my saddle over, right? And we had a horse like this, if you remember Macy and Charlie. She'd ride her, and she'd just be, like, especially to the right, she'd be rolling off the outside all the time. She like had to ride like this. All the time, because that horse just was rolling her rib cage like this, and we had to even things back out. Right? And the cool part about that is if you start feeling things like this, that horse picked up a bunch of knee on the right leg, right? On her right front, she had a bunch of knee because she had too much weight over here and she wasn't doing this flowing through, right? So we want to keep this horse square underneath of us. We want to keep our legs square. We want to keep everything square up underneath of us. Sitting square on your horse is huge, all right? Regardless of whether he's square or not, the only way you're gonna fix him and help him to be better is if you sit square so you know what's happening underneath of you, whether he's rolling off or dipping somewhere, okay? So if I'm riding a pleasure horse, I like to have a bit more weight over here, all right? If I'm riding a horsemanship horse, I want him to be a little bit more balanced because he doesn't know if he's going left or right, and he's gonna have to make bigger moves, right? A pleasure horse, if I'm going right, I'm only going right? So then when I go left, I'm only going left. And I can sit with a little bit more weight on the outside, all right? But if it's a horsemanship horse, Western riding, trail, equitation, anything like that, I want things to be pretty balanced and square, okay? So I don't want to get leaned off one way or the other too much, all right? And that's a hard thing for most people to do, is using your inside stirrup effectively. Most people are searching for their horse's hip because it's too far over. All right? So when you have your horse over canted like this, and you're riding down the rail and you got him all kinked up like this, you're gonna have to sit over here in order to find his hip, because you go to his hip, and like I said yesterday, his hip goes too far this way, and it's really hard to ride. Because now, and he loves doing this horse loves doing that, where I'm just sitting on him, and he'll overcant this far just with my left calf on him. Look at that, that's just my calf on there. So I can't get connected through my leg, and I can't help him out because things are just shooting way over here. So then we constantly have to keep kind of drifting over this way and keep finding that hip, and then we end up floating this inside stirrup, if you guys see that right there. See how I'm too close? You see how that puts me way off to the left and I'm floating this inside stirrup? See that daylight right there? That is extremely ineffective. So if I get square to you guys, you can see how bad that looks from the front, right? Right here. If I'm still sitting square up here, this is what that looks like from the front, all right? So if you guys were ever like, man, I had a good pattern, I don't know what the judges saw. This is what they saw, right? They were like, oh no, right? This is what they saw, and they were like, that's not effective, okay? You're not effective. And what this does, see how this bends this line right here? Messes the line of my hips up, messes the line of my shoulders up. Now everything's working against each other, right? Because I'm all kinked up and curled like this. This is probably the most common thing that I see, which is where people are floating the inside stirrup. They got no weight over here, because the reason you do that in the first place is because you feel like your horse is going to fall over this way. Plain and simple, right? Because you feel like if you weren't sitting like this, holding this shoulder up, and you went to sit square, the second you touch this stirrup and put weight over here, he's going to fall over, all right? The cool part about that is we're going to allow him to make that mistake. We're going to give him room to make that mistake, because then we're going to do what we did yesterday and bend him right here and push him up off that leg, right? So if I'm sitting on my horse and I'm going along and I have to ride like this to keep him straight, and I touch this stirrup and he falls over, right? If he takes this bait and falls over, then I'm going to, at home, reach down, tuck this rein, push him off this calf and say, get up over here so that I can sit square on my horse. Right? So that I can ride along and sit really square on him, and he doesn't just fall over because I put weight right there. He doesn't just make this move right here and fall over, all right? So that goes right back to what we did yesterday, okay? So the best advice I can give you when it comes to horsemanship is make sure you are sitting square and then your horse is broke. That's it, right? If you're balancing square and your horse knows to stay balancing square, you'll be just fine, right, as a rider, okay? So that's what we're looking for in my riders. I want to have the ability to get my legs close to my horse, want to be able to sit square on him, because this is balanced and this is where I want to be, all right? So when we go to make a horsemanship horse out of our hands, what I really want, can you see his head and neck? Okay, what I'm really looking for is a horse that'll stay round out of my feet. So this kind of goes hand in hand with the people that asked me yesterday about when do I make the switch from a snaffle to a shank bit, okay? So this horse is not quite ready for a shank bit. Not quite, okay? Because I want a horse that when I bump on him, he stays down right here and he lets me put some pressure on, okay? So you see me come up and bump on him, he's gonna go down and I want him to hunt the bridle with his chin. I don't necessarily want him to fold up if I'm just kind of asking him to drop in here. That way I can ride with some weight in my hand, okay? If I get my horse and I pull like this and his nose comes undone like that because he doesn't know to stay down right here and stay up in his back and everything just kind of follows up like that, you can't show that horse in a horsemanship class, right? You can't show him in a class at all, because every time you put some pressure on, he's gonna come up in his neck. He's gonna come undone, okay? So what you need is you need a horse that'll put some weight in the bridle, okay? Put some weight in the bridle so that when I bump, he drops into my hand and he stays down there, right? He's got to stay. See how he tried to lift his pole back up, right? This piece right here is going to keep trying to shoot back up on you. And it's one of the big things that we look for. We talked about it yesterday when we did our transitions. I do not ever want this piece of his neck to be coming up to me, because then it doesn't put any weight in my hand, okay? If I can't get any weight on it, I can't control it. Plain and simple. Same thing as my foot. So we were talking about a horse that sits on our outside leg a little bit. So we got some weight balanced over there so I can kind of carry him a little bit. So I'm already in to help him out. Same thing with my hand, right? I want a little bit of weight pulling down this bridle right there. See how those reins stayed tight? Now look, as his head comes up, look how those get slacker and slacker and slacker. And my hand position hasn't moved at all, right? So the higher his neck comes, look, now there's a big old drape in my reins. See that? Not a horsemanship horse, right? Gonna be very hard because I have no contact or control like this now. I am completely lost to the wolves. It's on him, all right? The only way I'm gonna have contact and control through my hand now is if I bump him back down. All right? So when you have a horsemanship horse, if you want to compete at a high level, he's got to stay down with some weight in our hands all the time. Right there, I love the feeling of that. There's still a little bit of slack in it, but I can control him right here with little moves out of my hand. Do you see that? So now it's just a little bend of my wrist, and I can talk to him and ask him to do things, okay? If he has his head way up, then it has to be a big move out of your hand to get him to do things. Look, if his head's way up and I'm still in the same spot with my hand, now look, look how much I have to move my hand to talk to him. Okay? So we've all heard in a horsemanship class, the judge doesn't want to see you move your hand, right? We all generally know that they don't want to see a lot of movement. Well, how do we solve that? Get your horse to where he stays down in the bridle. Get him to where he stays down here so that you can apply some pressure right here and it doesn't pick his head up, right? And that's all about keeping his belly up, keeping his back engaged, so he'll stay down in his neck right here, okay? That goes back to our snaffle work where we said we got to drop this horse down right here first, left to right, get this piece moving, get him to drop here, and then start to come up. And see how I'm coming up and I'm not banging him up? Be soft enough with your hand that you don't pull his neck up and get him undone, all right? So getting this horse where he stays down right there all the time, okay? So if I was moving this horse around and I was riding him, I want him to stay down pressure in my hand all the time because this is going to be much more connected to my horse. And you'll see him want to fold up right here. That makes him not quite a good horsemanship horse yet, for me. Not quite what I'm looking for because he folds up. See how he hides his chin back? I don't want that because that makes him lose contact with me, lose communication with me. I want him to stay in my hand, right there, trust my bit, find my hand, find my bit, and sit on it, okay? So I want a horse that'll stay in my bridle. Do you see how I'm staying connected through my leg? I'm at an extended jog here. You don't see a lot of drama in my seat. You don't see a lot of movement, right? Everything's staying really quiet, okay? If I pinch, you're gonna see me start bouncing up here, and now it's uncomfortable for everybody, right? See, he stumbled because he was like, oh shoot, he's pinching up on me. I can't flow through my ride, okay? So right here, got this horse in my hand, got him right there on my feet, still have a hook right there. I don't want that hook, okay? I want this horse to kind of get his neck flat, flatten his neck out, and ride with this down so that I can apply some pressure right here. See how that all came up to me? I'll do that again so you can see it. If I'm riding my horse and he's not great in a bridle or not great in his back, and I go to pinch up on him, right there. See this problem? This is what I was talking about yesterday, where if I tighten up on this horse too much, now I have this look. See that big bulgy muscle right there? Takes a long time to fix that. We can't have that muscle right there. This is not a horsemanship look to me, okay? This is hollow right here. He's balancing off this piece right here. Lots of muscle, not much muscle, okay? If you guys spend an entire summer trying to reshape a neck, it will be worth it, okay? The vast majority of you guys at home whose horses have come from programs that are not on the higher end are going to have that problem right there because we are used to bumping our horse like this back to us. When you start bumping back, this is what you end up with, all right? This is very hard to ride. I promise you, it's very hard to ride. It's very hard to show. Your shoulders are going to keep shoving through you. It's really hard to ride, okay? Get your horse to where he'll stay down in your hand and up in his belly. That's what you need. Down your hand, up in his belly. Go to your foot more than you go to your hand, and you'll end up with a better horse overall, okay? We're just guilty of riding our horses 70% with our hands and 30% with our feet. It's got to be the other way around. If you want to have a show horse in today's world, it's got to be the other way around. You got to be 70% with your feet, 30% with your hand, okay? Because if you get this horse right through here, this will take care of itself, I promise, okay? The vast majority of the time, that head and neck will take care of itself. So then when you're riding along, we want to have this horse up in his belly standing up underneath of us so we can sit really square. Do you see how this horse comes up in his neck when I'm loping? I got more work to do getting this horse to stay up and down in my seat, okay? Getting this lope to stay up and down so it's not going forward so much. So I'm gonna take him, I want him to stay down in his neck, up in his back, coming along here. I'm gonna keep dropping his neck down. Remember, I'm riding to my next stride. So we're gonna have some ugly in between until I get him where I want him. So I'm here, dropping him down, dropping him down, dropping him down, working that down, trying to keep his belly up and elevated. Better. Trying to flatten that neck out. He's got to keep that neck flat under there, okay? Keep that neck flat. Keep his neck down. Because that, once he's down, gives me the ability to ride one-handed, okay? If I were to ride this horse one-handed before he's ready, I'm just gonna pull his head and neck up out of the bridle, right? So watch, I'm gonna ride him one-handed, I'm gonna go to make my fix. Look how his neck came up and followed me and he got lost, right? He's tripping and stumbling all over the place. He can't do his job with this piece higher than the rest of his body. And it makes it really hard to be a one-handable horse, right? Really hard to be one-handable and showable, okay? See where I end up? This is not a good look for a turn, a roll back to the right and right lead out. It's not a good look for a backup. It's not a good look for a 90-degree and extended trot out. This is not effective, right? You look at this piece right here is all bulgy. This piece is not engaged. He's not using this, all right? So we got to get this horse to where he'll stay down in his bridle, on the bit all the time, okay? He's got to stay on the bit. If your horse is floating the bit, it's not going to work, right? So you could judge that class almost entirely based on how much does that horse float the bit. Does he stay down in our hand? Does he stay right here and let me maintain contact, right? If he doesn't let me maintain contact, whether it's through my hand or through my foot, I can't ride him. I can't help him, all right? So I hope that helps you guys, right? We got time for a little bit of Q&A if you guys have questions. Did you have some, Macy? Perfect. Perfect. So I hope you guys found that valuable. Don't forget, we're looking for 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and we're very close. We're at like 900 some. Yes. So free month on Patreon, right? And it's the top membership too. So it gets you all of the videos. And I think there's like, gosh, I think there's 70 some videos on there now. There's a ton. There's a ton. So, and this video will be up there. Yesterday's video will be up there. If you guys want to help us out by subscribing on YouTube, telling your friends about this, we'd love to grow this as much as we can, help you guys, especially since everybody's at home and we're all kind of trapped and doing the best we can, right? We saw this coming, we were ready, right? So helping you guys out. I think there's a bell notification on Facebook. If you guys hit the bell to be notified when we go live, that would be great. Tell your friends. Don't forget about the giveaway. Tag your friend and make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. We'll get you guys a free month. And we're working on a little bit of merchandise too, so maybe we can throw some stuff in. We'll do some more giveaways in the future. All right? Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I'm Jeremy LaRose.
I'm Macy.
And we will see you guys in the next one.
Bye.